Welcome to 5-Minute Music. So I've been making a video series to help teach beginning violinists, and to remind myself of some of the things that beginning violinists struggle with, I've been watching violin progress videos on YouTube. Most of the people who make these videos are adult beginners, and they're all genuinely making great progress, and most of them are self-taught or use YouTube videos like the ones that I've been making, and so it's really great to see that. But I've noticed 10 things that almost everyone in these videos struggled with, and I thought I would just list them in this video so that people can be aware of them. So the first thing that beginning violinists struggle with is having a stiff bow hold. Holding the bow can be uncomfortable at first, and so for a lot of these people it got better with time, but for the people who didn't improve, it was because they had a flat pinky like this. So for reference, with a good bow hold, the pinky is curved and it goes on top of the stick. For people who had the stiff bow hold, it was often flattened out like that. That's going to create tension in your hand, and it's going to make it harder to control the bow. So if you have a stiff bow hold, check to make sure that your pinky is curved. Number 2, trying to learn vibrato too quick. So vibrato is this little wiggly motion in the left hand, and it does give you a more beautiful sound. But if you're having trouble with your intonation and your tone, vibrato on top of that isn't going to help you. Vibrato enhances good intonation and tone. So you really shouldn't be learning vibrato until you're really comfortable playing in tune in at least the first 3 positions, I would say, and using the bow to get a good solid sound. Number 3, tightening the bow too much. This is what a too tight bow looks like. Some beginners will tighten it even more than that. I don't quite know the exact reason why beginners tighten their bow so much, so I'll just say that tightening your bow too much will make it harder to play and get a good sound in the long run, and it can damage your bow. I'll just show you as best as I can right here what a decent tightness of bow looks like. Notice that the stick here is curving inwards. I have a video that has a little bit more detail on what a good bow tightness looks like. Number 4, only using the upper half of the bow. So playing all of their pieces up here rather than getting your money's worth with the bow. The reason that beginners do that is because the bow feels heavier when you're in the lower half, and it requires a lot less effort to play in the upper half. The problem is that we actually get more control over the sound when we're playing closer to the right hand, which means that we're getting some of our best sounds in the lower half of the bow, and beginners are depriving themselves of that. All you have to do is get more comfortable with the lower half. One exercise that I like is to practice doing down bows very close to the frog. You can do that on any string, but the purpose is to familiarize yourself with the lower half of the bow. Number 5, crooked bows. By crooked bows, I mean that when you bow on the string, your bow's moving like this or like this. So when I play like this, or this, I don't get a great sound. You get the best sounds when you play parallel to the bridge. I have a whole video on how you can work to get straight bows, but the quick explanation is find the very lowest part of your bow, put your bow on the string between the edge of the fingerboard and the bridge, move your right elbow so that it's at the right height for that string. For most beginners, it's going to be a little higher than you think it is, and then extend your right arm out to a right angle. So you can see right here is my right angle, and you should be about in the middle of the bow. And then from there, you simply extend your forearm outwards. And then you'll end up at the tip of the bow. From the tip, you get back to your right angle. And from your right angle, you close the elbow to get to the frog. And then you speed that up so that it's one continuous motion. And moving your bow in this way will eliminate another problem. Problem number 6 is playing over the fingerboard. So you'll see a lot of beginners have a lot of rosin over here. That often means that their bows are moving crooked, or that they're just playing over here. The reason why we don't want to do this is because we're going to get a quieter sound over here, and we'll get a much louder, more powerful sound the closer we get to the bridge. Problem number 7 is buying an electric instrument. Electric instruments are lots of fun, and I'm not discouraging violinists from using them, but for beginners, there's 2 reasons why you don't want to get one. Number 1, they can be expensive, and you're much better off putting that money towards a quality acoustic instrument. Number 2 is that electric instruments hide a lot of your mistakes. Beginners like them because electric instruments make your playing sound better. The problem with learning on an electric instrument is that you're not going to hear the mistakes you're making with your bow, and you'll develop bad habits, and then you won't be able to progress as quickly on an acoustic instrument. Electric instruments are fun, but it's better to wait on buying one until your skills are more solidly in place. Otherwise, it can impede your learning. Number 8 is learning pop songs exclusively. I really do think that beginning violinists should learn at least some classical music. Classical music was written for these instruments, whereas a lot of pop songs that are played on the violin, they were originally intended for the voice, so they're actually going to be difficult to play. Whereas a lot of classical pieces were written specifically for the violin, so it's going to be better material to to help you learn. So there's nothing wrong with learning pop songs, but just be aware that it's probably going to be a bit easier to progress if you use classical pieces written specifically for the violin. Number 9 is intonation. In general, for all the videos that I watched, it gets better with time, but you can speed up the process by listening to lots of in-tune performances, which is easy if you have access to YouTube. Intonation is generally more about developing your ear than developing what your left hand does, but you will have an easier time if you have a good left hand position. Oftentimes beginners play flat, so they play a bit below the pitch, and that can be caused by bending the wrist this way or that way when you play. We want to keep the wrist in line with the hand and the forearm. That'll make it easier to reach the notes. Also, keeping your fingers curved on the instrument rather than flat, that will help your intonation be more precise. Number 10 is actually practicing too much in the beginning. I was shocked to see some videos where beginning violinists are practicing upwards of 4 hours a day within their first month of learning the instrument. The biggest reason why you should not practice too much is because you're often practicing bad habits in the beginning stages. We practice our instruments to help the body and brain learn the correct movements, and when you're first starting out, you often don't really know the correct movements. So I think a much more productive approach is to practice maybe 30 minutes a day, or even less, as long as it's consistent from day to day, and spend your time maybe watching tutorials or practicing very basic things like holding your instrument, getting a good left hand position, doing long bows, and watching professional performances so you can see what good playing looks like, and then you can more easily correct your own playing while you practice. Now, if you're a beginner violinist and you're watching this video and you notice that you do some of the things that I listed, maybe choose just one thing at a time to fix rather than overwhelming yourself with all the things you have to fix. You'll learn better if you start small. Maybe check out some of the videos in my beginning violin series and see if they'll help you. Thanks for watching.